perfect person for that. Attorney Whitney Boan joining us now with the very latest on all of these developments. Whitney, always good to see you.
Good to see you, Bob.
I'm going to start with this because the president just tweeted out, and I, of course, went past it. Here we go. The public is learning even more so how dishonest the fake news is. They totally misrepresent what I say about hate, bigotry, etc. Shame. If everything is fake about what he said, then why are world leaders denouncing him, Republicans denouncing him, and people dropping out of these CEO advisory committees?
I watched the press conference on Tuesday, and I would say that it didn't seem very fake. It seemed like it was actually him speaking, and those were words coming out of his mouth. So when he says this is fake news, I think what he's saying is they're saying things about him that disagree with his position or that are critical of his statements, which, as the President of the United States of America, of course, statements that you make are open to criticism, as are any public figures. And I think a lot of the criticism of Trump's statements are probably well-placed side of the coin you fall on, and that's why you're seeing Republican leaders coming out and distancing themselves from Trump's comments.
Yes, the old, you're going to believe me or your lying eyes. All right, what about all these CEOs that are dropping out of his advisory committee? Because the president was saying, you know what, there's plenty of CEOs I can replace them with, and yet today disbanded all these advisory committees.
Well, it turned into an ever-loving nightmare, of course, in terms of the amount of them, the mass exodus that happened in the days following these attacks in Charlottesville. And so what it seems like to me is that, these CEOs are in a position where they're private individuals, they're running companies, they represent the interests of their companies, and most of them have said, we're not politicians, we're not trying to go along on this ride. But the more that Trump doubled down on his statements in terms of his first press conference on Saturday, or his first statement, excuse me, and then backed that up on Tuesday in terms of saying, I think that there's violence on both sides of this. I think that there were good people who were out there rallying and carrying around signs and chanting that Jews should be removed from the country. That put CEOs in a position where it was like, this isn't worth it.
Not worth it for
and
us.
So now there wasn't enough left, and he had to disband it.
Real quick, let's get to the statues thing, because now there's a call for, let's get rid of them all. George Washington, if you're going to put a statue of George Washington, well, he was a slave owner. I mean, it's like people want the entire Wikipedia page of George Washington up there so that we know exactly what the man was all about.
Well, I think that people are having a very emotional reaction, and that it's well placed. And this isn't a new issue. We had this here in Lake Eola. I mean, and that was before Charlottesville. So this is a very emotional issue because a lot of these statues were erected during a time when desegregation was going on and integration was happening, and they were kind of efforts by local authorities and groups pushing local authorities to erect these monuments of the past and Confederacy. And what that represents to a lot of people is hate and negativity. Part of history, history changes and we move on, and that's not my saying that the statues don't have any value, or that history doesn't have any value, or that these individuals who are a part of history don't have any value beyond messages of hate and racism, or that they were all racist. But if it's so emotional, the easiest fix, of course, is get rid of the statues, put them in a museum dedicated to people who want to go and observe this part of history, because it is history and it should exist.
And removal of statues does not remove history, of course. History will be remembered, but it's certainly a good thing to remember that those who do not remember their history are doomed to repeat it.
It doesn't remove racism either.
It does not, yeah.
It does not.
Whitney, always good to see you. Thank you so much. All right.